What's going on, Sumolings? Thank you for joining us for another product walkthrough webinar. We are excited to have you today and to dive into our product in just a minute, but I want to give everybody a second to trickle in. We are joined by the team over at Cloudimage. We have Emil, who is the CO and co-founder, and then we have Montas, who works in marketing and will be hanging out in the chat a little bit with you all. Cloudimage smartly resizes images to make your website load faster, no matter the device or browser. It's available as a lifetime deal right now for $49 in our shop. Before we dive into the walkthrough itself, I want to tell you three quick things. The first, you can go ahead and tell us a little bit about your specific use case in your business and website over on the chat box on the right-hand side. You can also leave us questions for the Q&A that we will have after the walkthrough. Those questions go in the Q&A box down below the chat. And I do ask that you leave them in the Q&A box. It's just easier for us to manage and make sure that everything gets answered. And the last thing is that there will be a replay of this available after we are done rolling. So yeah, you'll be able to watch this as many times as you want. You're also able to step out if you need to. All right. Emil, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting and thank you for organizing. Hi everyone, hi all to all Sumolings. I'm super excited to be here. So I'm Emil from the Cloudimage team. I'm one of the two co-founder of Scaleflex, which is the company behind Cloudimage. And in the next 15 to 20 minutes, I want to give you a quick walkthrough of the Cloudimage product that is available on AppSumo and do you a demo to show you how to use it and some of the benefits of the solution. We had a quite exciting week with a lot of great feedback on the solution. We could improve as well some of the things that we had. So thank you if you gave some feedback as well here. I'm sure this will be helpful for you. So. As we all know, obviously, website speed impacts customer satisfaction, conversion, and revenue. It's quite easy to understand that even without any numbers, that if a website is slow, people will either bounce or not go through the end of the checkout process if you're trying to sell them something. So long story short, websites have to load fast, as well as mobile application. Obviously, the same applies to mobile apps. And if we look at what takes actually the most time to load today in a website, it's the images. Okay, so images represent about 70% on average of the content on a website, and in turn take also 70% of the time to load. And there are obviously studies and numbers that support my initial statement that the website must be fast to convert there, and also some more qualitative statements like Google using site speed as one of the most important metrics for SEO, especially since they upgraded their algorithms for SEO in 2018. Site speed has become critical, especially on mobile. There's some other studies that say that the website has to load in 2 seconds or less, or at least users have to be able to interact with the website in 2 seconds or less. And finally, Amazon has also conducted some tests, and so they figured out that at least on Amazon.com, 100 milliseconds of additional page loading time results in 1% revenue loss. So basically 1 second is 10% less conversion / revenue. Obviously, this is for Amazon, but I think it's a good metric to have in mind, which also supports, again, the statement that the website has to load fast if you want to convert and sell. So how can I make my images faster? What are the challenges with images today? The first one is that images must be responsive. Okay, so if you have an image, usually you have different sizes of your image. You have a thumbnail, you have something intermediary, you have the full size image, and so you already have like 3 dimensions. And if you want to be fast on all devices across all screen sizes, you also need to generate those 3 sizes for smartphones, laptops and larger screen. So for basic responsive design, or for basic responsive images, you end up with 9 sizes. So the 3 images we had originally times 3 screen sizes in this example. Obviously, it can be much more, but if you want to do well, at least 9 formats of your image are required. And the question is, how do you generate those formats? You can obviously do that on Photoshop manually, or try to script it yourself. But obviously, if you have, you know, hundreds or thousands, 10,000s, millions of images, this becomes quite cumbersome, and also, you know, a scaling challenge. So this is the first thing to address. The second problem is compression. So when you take an image with the camera and you export it as a JPEG, it's, you know, it gets compressed, but it's usually not compressed as much as it could be. The human eye can support, let's say, some heavier compression without having visible impacts, and so you can compress actually your JPEGs further. And also you need to use some new or modern formats for the web, like WebP. Because JPEG is not necessarily optimized for web delivery. It's great for sending images per email or on USB stick, but it's not the best for web delivery. This is why, for example, Google has come up with WebP, which is a modern compression format for the web, which allows up to 30 to 40% the size reduction of your images if you use WebP. So you obviously need to have JPEG and WebP, because not all browsers support WebP. So if you want to have WebP, you have to multiply your 9 images by 2 and have 18 version of your origin images to have JPEG and WebP. And so compression is important. And last but not least, if you want to address a global audience, especially in these times, you need to bring your images closer to your end users. And this is why you need to cache your images as close as possible to your end viewers, and leverage, for example, content delivery networks, so that a user in South Africa loads images from South Africa, even though the website is hosted in the US or in Australia or in Europe. So these are like the 3 best practices and recommendations that that we can give, and we also see as challenges in the market. And at Cloudimage, we provide one integrated solution to address those 3 use cases, or these 3 challenges. And what we do at Cloudimage is very simple. We're going to download your images, so you don't need to upload anything with us. We're going to go and fetch your images from where they're stored, regardless if it's on their web, on your web server, or on an Amazon bucket or Google Cloud Storage or Azure Blob. We're gonna on the fly download the image when it's loaded for the first time. We will transform it, so basically generate all the sizes you need for responsive design. We will recompress it after we've transformed them in either JPEG or WebP, and finally we'll deliver it over CDN and cache it as close as possible to your end users, so that it can load faster for any subsequent request. Okay, so that's how it works. It's pretty simple, and all this process that you see here, it's happening in a few hundred milliseconds for the very first time that an image is loaded, and once the image is cached in the CDN, it should load in 50, 60, 70 milliseconds, depends obviously on the size and on the connection, but these are the values and the times that we're trying to achieve over the CDN. So how to implement Cloudimage? There are 3 ways, 3 simple ways. The first way is the developer way. You basically have your origin image paths in your code. You just need to amend them with the operations and the filters you want to have Cloudimage apply to the images. So operations are basically resizing operations, like resize to 300 or 600 or 900 pixel. And filters are some more advanced filters, like transform into grayscale, or apply a watermark, or put a frame, or crop to the face of the person, or a point of interest. So we have all kinds of operations and filters available in our documentation. But yeah, this is for the manual implementation, which involves some a little bit of development. It's more or less a find and replace at the end of the day, but it's something that has to be done in the code with URL query strings here in this example. The second way to implement Cloudimage is by using one of our plugins. So we have one plugin which is very popular on GitHub. It's completely open source. I'll show it to you in a second. It's called Responsive Images plugin. It's available in JavaScript, React, or Angular. So this plugin will basically take care of replacing all the image URLs in your code automatically and implement Cloudimage on your website, and also deliver nice and beautiful responsive images for you. And finally, last but not least, we have a WordPress plugin that you can also install and activate and configure in a few clicks. I'll show that too in a second as well. And we have tutorials for PrestaShop, Magento, and Spotify and Shopify, sorry, on how to leverage and use Cloudimage on those content management system. So with the time and with the demand, we're obviously adding support for more CMSs, and we're also very happy to get feedback from you. If there is one CMS that you guys are working on and is popular and you think we should be on there, please let us know in the reviews of or in the comment section of the AppSumo deal. We'll look into it carefully in the next few weeks. So these are the three methods: manual implementation, GS implementation, and plugin/CMS implementation. So a few words about our roadmap in Q2. So I mentioned compression. So there is a way to go even further with JPEG and WebP compression, and because we originally come from the enterprise segment, so we started 4 years ago with Cloudimage, and we started targeting larger accounts initially, and now only 1 year or 1.5 years ago we started focusing on those CMS systems as well, and we basically have a huge database of images. We resize more than 80 million new images every month, and based on our image database, we're able to run some nice machine learning algorithms to learn how to compress images in the best way. So we're going to launch in this quarter, actually this month, an algorithm called OptiPress, which is our homemade image compression algorithm, which will, the goal is to go even further with compression and win 50, 60, 70% versus the original size of an image. Obviously, it's very image dependent, and this is exactly what OptiPress will find out. Based on your image, it will find the best compression parameters and compress it and make the images slimmer than ever. So this is the first item on our roadmap. The second item is, thanks to the amazing feedback we get from the Sumo links on this deal on our WordPress plugin, we'll implement many of the suggestions and improvements we got. We received in the comment section, but also on our support desk. So watch out here for some really cool improvements on the WordPress plugin in the next few weeks. And last but not least, we are going to also launch a Shopify plugin to have an even easier integration than now into Shopify, because we've seen a lot of requests coming from Shopify users to integrate Cloudimage on in Shopify. Just as a quick FYI, the WordPress plugin obviously supports WooCommerce. So if you're using WooCommerce in WordPress to run an eShop, the plugin will work with the WooCommerce. All right, it's demo time. Enough speaking. So let me just here switch to the Cloudimage console. So once you create an account in Cloudimage, you obtain something called a token, and this token helps you or allows you to resize images. So how does, I will go through the 3 implementation methods I mentioned, which is the manual implementation, the GS implementation, and the WordPress implementation. So for the manual implementation, it's very easy. If I open here, this image is an Eiffel Tower. It's hosted on a web server. And if I look at this image, it's quite heavy. It's here, as we can see, 5.3 megabyte heavy, and it takes about a second to load, which is still not too bad for 5 megabyte, but it's definitely not enough if you have 10 images like this on your website. Users will wait for a few seconds before everything is loaded. So what we'll do basically is we'll take here our token, and we will just prefix this image with this token.cloudimage.io/v7, and we'll add a little parameter here at the end to resize it, let's say to 600 pixels. So what will happen here is immediately we will deliver here a 600 pixel version of this image. And as we can see, it is first of all delivered in WebP in this case, and it is much smaller. It's 111 kilobytes, and I told you the very first time it's a bit slower because we need to download and resize it. But then if I reload here, I get into the 40s milliseconds to load this image. So we basically went down from 1 second to 45 milliseconds here. And if I want to generate some other sizes, you'll see it's really almost instantaneous. So I'm generating here. Let me just close this for you to see. This is a 200 thumbnail. This is a 250 thumbnail, 350 thumbnail. I can add some additional filters if I want to make it gray, and so on. I think I made it wrong. Anyway, so you can here very quickly generate a different version and size of your image and have it load faster. If you want to know a bit more about all the transformations available, it's everything in documentation here. So if you look at the filter, the right filter is actually F equal gray here, F equal gray. So if I go back here and put my F equal gray here, we should have a grayscale image in that case. Okay, but we support much more. You can obviously, you know, blur your image. You can put round corners. You can crop the image. So this is the round corners one. You can crop the image here with automatic crop as well. That detects the points of interest. You can face crop to detect faces, and we're adding operations and filters as we get requests from our customers. We're pretty flexible with that, and happy to help here if there is something you need which we don't support yet. So this is for the manual implementation. Let's move now to the JavaScript implementation. So I mentioned that we have a responsive plugin on GitHub. So if you look here on our GitHub page, you'll see the company is called Scaleflex, as I mentioned. So it's github.com/Scaleflex. We have here the plugin, and the plugin basically what it does, it will automatically detect the size of your container and deliver the best possible image for it. So as you can see here, I am on a Mac with a Retina display with a device pixel ratio of 2, and my container is 1440 pixel here in my browser, and the plugin has delivered a 2900 pixel image in WebP. Why? Because I'm on a Retina display, and you need to deliver twice as bigger image as the container size for it to be of good quality. Also, what the plugin does, if I reload here, it has this nice blurry progressive loading effect. So what we do is we actually load a low quality preview of the image while the target image is loading in the background, and then we swap it. And this gives this nice user experience where the page is not jumping, and also where you have this nice smooth transition towards your target image. So if I scroll down here, the plugin also supports lazy loading. So it adds lazy loading automatically to your images. And if I reload here, you'll see that actually the whole logic of the term of finding out the container size works also for non-background images, also for, like, let's say product images which don't take the whole width of the screen. In this case, I have 570 pixel image, and we've delivered a 1200 pixel image in WebP. So the good thing is that if I reduce here my screen size, let's say I'm on a phone, and I reload here, let's see what happens. You see my container width is now 500 pixel, and the plugin will request from Cloudimage an image which is 1000 pixel, which is again device pixel ratio of 2 times here the size of my container. And this was significantly smaller. It's 86 kilobyte versus, let's go back to the original image, versus 425. As you saw, as I make my window bigger, the plugin will automatically fetch in the background the bigger image, so that my image doesn't become blurry because I have a small image which gets extended. And this whole logic, which I mentioned about containers, also works in for smaller screens. So in this case here, I mean, you can really see it, but we have here much smaller images based on the container width. Good. So that's for the responsive plugin, GS. So how to implement it? It's very, very simple. You actually simply need to add here a JavaScript, which is our responsive images JavaScript. If you want to have lazy loading, you need also lazy sizes. This is optional. And then you need to initiate the plugin here with those 5 lines of code. That's it. You put your token and you can get started. By the way, I forgot to mention that we offer also free CNAMEs. So if you want to have your custom CNAME and deliver your images over your custom domain, so that it's not in this case a token.cloudimage.io, but let's say img.company.com. This is completely possible. You just can request this over our support. Once you've created an account, and within a few minutes or hours, you have your CNAME and your SSL certificate generated and deployed on the CDN for you to deliver images over your own domain, which also works here, obviously, with the GS plugin as well. So this is about the GS plugin, and last but not least, the WordPress implementation. So I'm here on WordPress. I'll show you a WordPress website which is not optimized yet. So this is the WordPress website that I'm working on. It's an e-commerce website in that case. And if I'm looking at the here the loading time of this WordPress website, it's not optimized yet at all. From at least not with Cloudimage. I can see here basically on my images. If I filter my images, I see here that my images are about, let me just load all the images. You see here I have those images which take in this case, you know, few hundreds of milliseconds to load. Okay, I can do it again so that you see it live. I'm reloading the page, and you see here the average is somewhere around 330, 350, 330 milliseconds. And all my images are delivered in JPEG in that case and are, you know, of this size. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just go ahead in the plugin section of my WordPress, and I will enable the Cloudimage plugin. So the Cloudimage plugin is available in the media library, or in the plugin library of WordPress. I've installed it here already, and I can just activate it with my Elementor here team in that case. And what happens is that I have here a little Cloudimage button or menu item that is added, and I just need to go ahead here, enter my token. Just to remind you, the token was what I had here, and then I have here 2 modes. One which we call backend mode, and one which we call JavaScript mode. The JavaScript mode will integrate the plugin, the GS responsive plugin I just showed you before in the second implementation method. It will implement it. It's a more aggressive way to optimize images. And it's important for you just to double check after you enable it that there are no conflicts with some other plugins that might add some JavaScript. This is why it's optional here. The backend mode also already compresses your images quite well and delivers them over CDN, but the JavaScript plugin goes even further. In this demo, I'll just enable here the JavaScript plugin, and if I go back here on my demo website and I refresh it, here we go. It's the same page as before. I'm in incognito mode because the JavaScript plugin only works when you're not logged into your WordPress admin, in order to reduce some CDN traffic so that your images in the gallery and so are not, you know, consuming CDN bandwidth. And here what we'll see is that our images are delivered over, you see your Cloudimage token. The first time, as I said, it takes a bit longer because we need to cache them. You see we have also lazy loading now, and if I reload everything, we'll see that that will be here. If I just filter my images, that will be, first of all, will be much faster. You see here the average is is around 100 milliseconds per image, and the image size has been reduced because we deliver them in this case in WebP. So we have here about 1.2 megabyte of images versus before. If I look here at the images before, we had 1.4. So in that case, we won 200 kilobytes, which might not seem amazing, but it's still more than 10%. And most importantly, we, thanks to the CDN, we reduced the loading times. You see here from 300 to 400 milliseconds per image to here maximum 200 to 24 in this case. If I reload it, we might even get better times, but it's in the tens of milliseconds ideally. All right, so we kind of accelerated our images by 3 or 4 in some cases with a simple plugin here. So if you guys want to try it out, just go on the AppSumo page /Cloudimage and get the deal to play around with either the WordPress plugin, the GS mode, or the manual implementation. And with that, one last thing I just wanted to add: we've had a lot of questions around how we differentiate from other similar tools that have been on AppSumo and also available on the market. So I always like to say, it's up to you guys to test and compare and find out for yourself. I think tools like Gumlet or Short Pixel are doing an amazing job and working really great. Our differentiator is that we come again from the enterprise sector, so we have worked with many bigger customers to address a lot of edge cases, and we support, or we offer some really advanced functionality like very granular cache control, invalidation of your cache, some quite interesting compression parameters, some quite advanced watermarking. So again, check it out to judge for yourself. What's maybe interesting as well is that we are an international company. We're all remote, more than 20 people, mainly in Europe, and we have more than 400 customers worldwide. So that's it for me. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat.
Yep,
and I'll be happy to answer.
If you're ready for them.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So I do want to say that a lot of questions have already been answered. So thank you, Montas, for handling those. We will repeat some of them to go ahead and have those available for the replay. The first question that has not been answered, or most recent question, I'm curious about your plugin for manipulating images. I have a dating site and I'm considering this for my images. Would your JavaScript manipulation product work well in a site for cropping, rotating, etc.?
Yeah, amazing question. So basically what we always like to say is that your goal and your focus is to design a nice dating app, and you want to add value for your customers or users by adding nice features around matching people and a nice user experience. You don't want to bother with resizing your images and managing your images and making sure they load fast, but you also realize that it's super critical for your images to work, otherwise people will leave your app. So you have two options. If it's a WordPress based website or dating platform, use obviously the plugin, the WordPress plugin. If you code it by yourself, then the best approach is either to use the manual implementation or the responsive GS. So I invite you to go on GitHub, create an account with Cloudimage, get a token, put the GS on your website, try it out, and if you have any questions or problems, just let us know. We have a quite reactive support, and we'll help you fixing whatever needs to be fixed. But to answer your question, yes, I believe dating websites are a very good use case for our service.
Awesome. The next question, we've had some questions about agencies. So if you could just clear it up. I am an agency. Can I use this on my client's website?
Yep. So for agencies, we offer, I forgot to mention this. I said that we come from the enterprise sector. Our product is completely multi-tenant. What does that mean? It means that you can have one account, and I'll log in here with a different account, which is, let's say, an agency account in that case. And what you see is that you have the option to have multiple tokens here. So I talked a bit, I explained what a Cloudimage token is, but what is really amazing with our product is that you can have multiple tokens without one admin console. Okay, so this allows you to have separate settings per token based on your customer requirements. If they want to have really hard compression, or they don't want to convert SVGs, for example, into WebP, and they want to have some specific caching configuration, you can do that based on a token, and all the statistics as well are and the dashboards here and the logs are token specific. So if you want to have statistic per customers on how much traffic is generated, how many images are resized, what is your cache hit ratio, and so on, then feel free, you can have multiple tokens in one instance. And also you can have multiple companies. So let's say you want to here have your different companies, and each of the companies is supposed to have multiple tokens. For example, for a dev environment or a prod environment, you can very easily here switch and have, let's say, a different token per company. Okay, so you can have multiple companies, multiple tokens, and also multiple users. Okay, so you can here create users, invite your users, and give them access only to some specific tokens or to all tokens of this company. Okay, so this is excellent for digital agencies, and you can then also have one plan per, or one AppSumo code per customer, or you can use one global allowance across all of your customers. That's also possible. Our billing systems supports that. So yeah, feel free to reach out if you want to have more information on that. But clearly, I guess our product is, I mean, we had digital agencies in mind when we started developing this 4 years ago.
All right, we have a question about auto recognition of container size. Let me, I don't know how to phrase this. With, does it work even with dozens of device screen sizes?
Yeah, so the way it will work is that usually to make images responsive, you have the best practice, what is recommended is to use the HTML, either picture tag or the source set, where you can define yourself based on the customer or the user's screen side where your breakpoints are. Okay, and which size of an image to deliver based on which screen size. So if you're using a WordPress theme or your front end does not support yet this source set or picture tag, then the JavaScript plugin do the job actually for you, and will first of all detect the device pixel ratio and then detect the container size. We have some quite interesting and smart logic, which will go and try to find out the width of this container here. And based on the container width and the device pixel ratio, will load the best possible image rounded up to the 100 next pixel. Okay, this is why here I have, you see 1900. If you multiply 1419 times 2, 2838, we deliver here 2900 pixel. So it's supposed to do the job, or the goal is for the plugin to do the job for you if your theme or your front-end layout does not support responsive images yet.
Awesome. All right, our next question is just a clarification. The JS, the JavaScript plugin gets installed where?
So the JavaScript plugin basically just requires you to add in the code of your website. Again, the JavaScript plugin is if you're really coding your website on your own and your front end in React or in plain JS and HTML and CSS. If you are not using a CMS like WordPress or Shopify, Magento, PrestaShop, and so on. So if you're coding your website, you just need to add this tag inside your head section of your HTML code, and just below this add the little configuration. Okay, so if you look at the code of this page, the JavaScript plugin is Cloudimage responsive. Wait, where was it? It's here. So you see I have just added it. Okay, no, in this case it's in the footer, but doesn't matter. You can edit here. In this case, it's at the end. At the beginning or the end of your code.
Excellent. All right. Can Cloudimage optimize 360 photos and videos?
Yep. So for that, we have another plugin, which is our 360 plugin. It's also open source. Excuse me. So if you go here on our GitHub page, you see. Here on ScaleFlex, you see all our plugins, and we have 360 plugin, which is actually our most popular plugin. It has 1,500 stars. When we launched this last year, we were for 1 week in the top 10 JavaScript plugins worldwide. And this plugin, basically, if you go on the demo page, allows you to basically have 36 or 72 images put together to offer a 360 experience like that. Okay, so if you go here, this is with 72. It's even nicer. This is with 36, and it has also auto scroll, so you can automatically have it started the animation when it loads. You can use here those nice arrows. You can have here a full screen view. of your image to have the 360 view into full screen. You can zoom as well. And what's very important in 360 is because you have 36 images, those images have to be optimized. They have to be delivered over CDN if you want them to load fast, okay? So for that, obviously the 360 plugin, it's also available over one single GS here of a few kilobytes. Combining this with the Cloudimage account to optimize the images makes complete sense.
Awesome, thank you. The next question, Cloudimage is caching the resized images. Once the image is resized for the first time, all the following images, well, okay, sorry, that's not a question, that's an answer. If I have 10 images loaded via CDN, will that add 10 requests to my page?
So it all depends when you call the images. So if you're having lazy loading, for example, our script JavaScript responsive plugin embeds this, but you can also have lazy loading with many other great WordPress plugins, or do it yourself. So if you have lazy loading, the image will only be called from the CDN when the user scrolls down and gets to it. Okay, so if you look again on our JavaScript plugin here, if I check here my network tab for images and I reload my page, at the beginning I'm just loading here as I said, we have a very low quality image for the blur effect and then the original image. And then if I scroll down, only now when I get here, you see the images get loaded. So only now CDN traffic is generated because I really need to show those images. So using actually this plugin with lazy loading, or actually having lazy loading even with our plugin, will save some bandwidth for you and your users.
Awesome. All right, so we don't have any more videos about, okay, no, wait. For less technical people, do you have, okay. Do you have an install and configuration service to get this set up the best way?
Absolutely. So if you go into our, so obviously it depends on your website. If it's a small website, you know, we can do it together over Zoom or in a few minutes and implement it. If you have a bigger website and you really need a little bit of, you know, consulting, best practices, you know, what would you suggest for my images to be faster? Am I doing things correctly? We have something called the ScaleFlex Performance Improvement Consulting Practice, where we have some of our specialists who will sit down with you for a day to help you, you know, figuring out what's the best for you and help you implement all the improvements, you know, using our technologies, but not necessary. There are things that you can do also without using the GS plugins and stuff. So there are like best practices in general. So we offer some consulting services around performance optimizations and image optimization as well.
Wonderful, and I think that's an excellent place to close off. So I'm going to come back on camera. Hello, everybody. And thank you so much for joining us for another walkthrough. This has been hugely informative. Thank you so much for joining us today, Emil, and going through all of that. If you have not already redeemed your code for Cloudimage, I don't know what you're waiting for. Go over to appsumo.com/Cloudimage and redeem your code today. A lifetime deal starts at just $49 and it is backed by AppSumo's 60-day guarantee. So you can go ahead, play around with it, and let us know how it's working for you. You can tell us how it's working in the comments on the deal page. You can also leave us any more questions that you have on the deal page as well. Thank you so much, Emil and Montas, for joining us.
Thank you for organizing. Bye-bye.
Have a good one.